Imagine a battleground where the world's top web designers compete to build the best websites. Well, it exists. Awards.com. Web designers from around the world submit their projects with the hopes of winning the prestigious Site of the Day and get featured on the homepage of Awards.com. And guys, take a look at how much studios are charging for these websites. Most of these agencies are starting at $30K per website. So there's no question that they're making a lot of money with these websites. But here's the question. Can regular designers like you or me design these websites too? To test this, I set myself a challenge. I'll sit down and study hundreds of sites on Awards, discovering the design ingredients for an Awards website. Then I'd give myself one day to design an Awards landing page, applying the findings that I discovered. If you look at my portfolio, there's nothing really that crazy in terms of design. I don't consider myself a very world-class designer, and I've definitely never been featured for Site of the Day before. So this is really going to be quite a big challenge for me, but if you want to stick around for the ride, I'm going to take you through exactly how I research this and then design an Awards website in one day. So feel free to stick around and watch me do it. But what makes an Awards website? I started browsing awards.com, analyzing layouts, animations, colors, typography, and after a few hours, I found plenty of common themes throughout the Site of the Day winners. The first thing I noticed was that all these awards websites don't follow the classical website layouts. Instead, they break out of the normal and often reminded me of magazines. This is a magazine that I found in the kitchen of my co-working. There's a whole stack of them. And if you open it to the first page, it looks exactly like an awards website. I realized that to design something truly awards worthy, I needed to stop thinking like a web designer and start thinking like a graphic designer. Ingredient 2 is typography. What I noticed on these awards websites is they have a lot of large and small font pairings. And you can create these really amazing layouts by using massive headings and then really small paragraphs. My What Font plugin for Chrome allows me to find any font just by clicking on the text. And what I discovered was that all these awards websites, they're not using free Google fonts, they're using premium fonts from type foundries. Sometimes these fonts cost hundreds of dollars, but luckily most type foundries will allow you to download a free trial so you can test out their fonts. The next ingredient I noticed were grid layouts. Looking at many awards websites, I could see bits of seemingly random text placed around the designs. And did the designer put these here without thinking, just randomly? Actually, no, they're using layout grids to create these very augmented and interesting designs. But it's not random. Ingredient 4, we have background images. And I hadn't noticed this before, but so many of the hero sections you see on awards have background images. Notice how the background images make these designs stand out and just pop. If I can find a high quality background image with maybe some colors and some textures, I think I can make something that stands out. And the last ingredient I'm going to use is modern UI animations. There's no doubt about it that all of these awards websites, you have to have great animation to get on awards. Preloaders, text animations, micro interactions, scroll animations. You might wonder, how are these developers creating all these crazy animations? The answer, my friends, is GSAP. If you don't know what GSAP is, it's an advanced JavaScript library used by all the top creative developers to create out-of-this-world animations. And actually, GSAP has been in the news recently because Webflow has acquired GSAP, and when they did that, they made GSAP free for everyone. So a lot of the effects you had to pay for in the past are now free to use for everybody. So with those ingredients already laid out, I believe that I can use them, put them together to build an awards website in one day. So let's see how we go with that. Right, so it's time to start designing now, and I've literally just got to work. I've grabbed my coffee here, so we've got everything we need to begin our design. I don't know what to expect. I'm gonna try and design as much as possible, but it's gonna be very hard to complete an awards site in one day. So I'm just gonna do one landing page, and let's see how far we get. I'm pretty happy with how the hero section is going. It's pretty much finished. So yeah, time to move on to the other sections on the landing page, and let's see how far we get. So it's been like 2.5 hours. I took a long time to do this second section. I'm going to show you on my screen share. Here, obviously, right below the hero, we have our first content section. And what I wanted to do here was put some bold text that gives a bit more of an overview of what the product does. This is just placeholder text for now. Maybe a little bit of a CTA button here. And then we have an image that will unmask across the whole section like this. This could be a really cool thing to do, and perhaps maybe this image is even directly on the side here, so it doesn't. Could be something like this. Maybe it's even better if this image will take up like the whole section. I don't know. That could be really cool. And we've got the features section looking nice. Let me show you. So here we have the section here, and this is very Apple-esque. We've got this grid where I've actually used the whole grid layout to make sure everything is perfectly aligned here. And we're using some different layouts with, some are left or right aligned on this text here. One of the cool things I like about it is we have this sort of like first word, which would be the feature. So like, for example, feature 4. And then that's in grey and slightly bolder. Then the rest of the text is just white like that. I think this looks pretty clean and very happy with how it's coming out now. Maybe I'll switch out some of these images. They just came straight from Unsplash, but overall looking pretty clean. Okay, so here we have our hero section. It's pretty modern looking and I think pretty awards worthy. Down here we've got our content section with our content on the left, but this image, as the user scrolls, is going to come in front of this content like a window, and it's going to open up into this full, like a full background image right here. After that, the user scrolls into this features section where they can see these different types of images with little text underneath them. I think this looks quite interesting. Down here we've got a testimonial section. This was probably the hardest of all the sections to develop, or sorry, rather to design. But basically what we're going to have here is like a scrolling, as the user scrolls by, these cards are going to come past, and this is a very well-known GSAP effect that we're going to develop. And then finally we've got a sort of call to action section where they can order now. This is a rotating marquee, and then we've got the footer right here. So like overall, I'm pretty decently happy with how things turned out. I think as I get better, as I keep trying to design more like an awards designer, I'll get faster and I'll get better at doing this. But the next step now is just to develop this. So this weekend I'm gonna have a go at developing this. It should take me probably a couple of days, but the design part, we did it in one day, and I'm pretty exhausted right now. So I'm gonna finish up for the day, and I'll see you next time. So I developed this website over the course of about 1 week while I was still working full-time at my job. I upgraded to the paid version of ChatGPT to help me with the coding because I'm pretty much a complete beginner when it comes to coding, and especially when it comes to GSAP. I found this pretty cool resource, which is a site called madewithgsap.com, and it has a collection of really awesome GSAP effects that you can use for inspiration, or you could just buy the course like I did, and the developer shows you exactly how to build all these really cool animations. Effect 1 was where I got inspiration for the testimonial cards section where you scroll across. So if you're serious about getting into creative development and learning GSAP, I highly recommend this resource. But guys, I'm going to be completely honest, the coding was much harder than I expected. It is a very big step up from just using Webflow interactions and especially creating scroll animations can be really difficult. I spent so much time debugging, redeveloping things, using ChatGPT to debug. It took me longer than I thought. My new microphone even arrived before I finished developing the site. But now I'm going to walk you through the final site and let's see what we've got. Okay, so let's break down our page here. So I'm going to refresh and you'll see our fade in and GSAP animation. This is just GSAP split text coming in on the two headings, plus the paragraph down here also has the same effect applied. I think it looks very clean. And as we scroll, the hero will scale down and also the opacity will drop. So we get this kind of fixed in hero effect, which I do quite like. Let me see that one more time. And if we go down to the next section, we have this, again, GSAP split text animation coming in. And once this section hits the top of the viewport, we're gonna get this full width image coming right through here, which I do quite like. And this is smooth, so it's not exactly linear, but it does go in more of a smooth fashion. Down to our features, we have these fade in with our images and then the GSAP split text coming up. And then for our testimonial section, I just added that heading, and then we've got our cards coming across the screen like this. This will be by far the hardest part of the website to develop, but I managed to get it looking decent. And finally, we have our CTA section here with more split text animation, and then we have our rotating marquee over this background image right here. What I noticed is that some of the split text animations weren't coming in properly on mobile devices, and even after debugging, I wasn't able to work out why this was happening. I also had some issues implementing the scrolling cards for the testimonial section on mobile. Overall, I'm learning a lot in my first 2 weeks of using GSAP, but there's a long way to go before I'm going to be, getting comfortable with using this on real client projects. But I want to make a little point here about the importance of practice projects, because they're not a waste of time if you're not being paid, by a real client to work. You're using these practice projects to improve your skills in an environment where there's no pressure. You can make mistakes, you can learn new things, and those practice projects, especially when you're a beginner, like I am with GSAP, those are where you really get started before you move on to doing this for actual clients. So what this project has really shown me is that I need to really improve my, just basic GSAP stuff before I get to more advanced scroll animations. So just getting comfortable with using split text and having it render smoothly across all devices is my first step. And I love to take you guys along with the journey, with me along on the journey, because I'm going to be documenting a bit of that here on YouTube now. But thanks heaps for watching this video. Hope you've learned a little bit about building award sites, and I certainly have on this video. And as I go forwards, I'm going to be sharing more of my kind of vlogs like this when I build things. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.